There is a quiet killer in software development. It does not crash the server. It does not introduce a security vulnerability. It does not leave a trace in the logs. It is the slow erosion of focus and the gradual expansion of ambition. We call this scope creep, but I want to talk about something deeper. We are talking about the sabotage of the project by the very people trying to save it. Think about how we usually handle changes. We use structural diffing. Most engineers treat this as a debugging tool. You change a file, you look at the diff to see what broke, and you fix it. But that is reactive. That is putting out fires after they start. What if we treated structural diffing as a reality check before the fire ever starts? Consider the research on overthinking loops in AI agents. When these systems get stuck, they do not just slow down, they spiral. One study found that excessive tool usage loops could amplify token usage by 142.4 times. The system burns through resources without making progress. It is a structural risk. It is self-sabotage built into the logic. Humans do not do this with tokens, but we do it with time and complexity. We plan so much that we never build. We analyze so deeply that we lose sight of the goal. This is the human version of the overthinking loop. It happens when a team gets obsessed with the perfect solution instead of a working one. They use tools like MCP tools to try and solve problems that do not exist yet. They create infinite loops of planning where no execution ever happens. Now consider scope creep. This is often driven by what researchers call a delusion of control. Stakeholders believe they understand the complexity of the work, but they do not. They see the features they want, but they do not see the hidden dependencies. They do not see the friction. This leads to executive disaster. The project grows until it becomes unmanageable. The work breakdown structure is supposed to help here. It breaks the work down into smaller, verifiable pieces. But if you are not careful, this tool can become a barrier. If you make the structure too rigid, you prevent the necessary adaptation to new information. You turn a verification tool into a wall against progress. You end up with a plan that is perfect on paper but impossible in reality. Here is the thing. The most effective defense is not just adding more features to your plan. It is about negative constraints. You must explicitly define what you will not build. This is where the proactive use of structural diffing changes everything. Instead of waiting for a bug report, you run a structural diff on your requirements before you write a single line of code. You compare the current plan against the baseline reality. You ask, does this change add value, or does it just add complexity? If the diff shows a massive expansion without a corresponding increase in value, that is a signal. That is the sabotage trying to happen. We need to treat the plan itself as a system that needs version control. When a new feature is requested, you do not just add it, you diff it. You look at the structural impact. Does this break the boundary we set? Does this trigger the overthinking loop? If the team starts spending more time debating the implementation than building the core functionality, you have an overthinking loop. You need a hard stop. You need a mechanism to say, no, this is scope creep, not a necessary evolution. Future projects will likely require governance policies that limit these loops. Just as AI systems need limits on token usage, human teams need limits on scope expansion. You need to enforce hard stops. This requires a cultural shift. You need to move away from additive feature lists that grow endlessly. You need to embrace the idea that saying no is a feature. It is a feature of stability. It is a feature of delivery. When you treat structural diffing as a proactive reality check, you stop fighting the symptoms of failure and start preventing the cause. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.